Wow. The NBA offseason is just about over. Training camp will begin in a couple weeks. Media days have begun. Press conferences with new rosters, new players are starting to kick off this week. And what an offseason it was. We had trade rumors all around. Kyrie Irving going to the Lakers maybe. Kevin Durant going who knows where. The Lakers making big moves. Russell Westbrook, what's going on with him? The Utah Jazz blew it up. Embraced the full rebuild. Same with the San Antonio Spurs. What an interesting offseason. And what a great year it's going to be for NBA fans. The Eastern Conference can no longer be considered the Leastern Conference. The East is looking good. A conference that was competitive last year, if not top-heavy, but a fun conference to watch last year, got even better. It is deeper. It is more competitive. James Harden re-signed with the Sixers. The Brooklyn Nets are keeping it together. The Atlanta Hawks, the Cleveland Cavaliers made big trades. The Knicks got better. A lot of teams got better in the East. It's going to be a fun year to be an NBA fan. And I figured, hey, why don't I go ahead and share my ranking of the Eastern Conference seeding, my predictions of how things are going to shake up here in the Eastern Conference. Full disclosure, I am a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. I live in Ohio. I'm a Northeast Ohio guy, so I might have a little bias there, but here we go. Diving in, I'm going to break it up into three sections. I'm going to have teams that are going to miss the playoffs that I think are going to just be out of the play-in altogether. So the 15 through the 11 seed. Then the play-in teams are the 10, 9, 8, and 7 seeds. Then the teams that are going to have a good enough record to make the playoffs outright. So the 6th seed through the number 1 seed in the East. Okay, here we go. Teams that have no shot to make the play-in. No surprises here. Number 15, the Indiana Pacers. 14, the Orlando Magic. 13, the Charlotte Hornets. 12, the Detroit Pistons. And number 11 seed, the Washington Wizards. That's how I think the order is going to go there at the bottom of the East. Honestly, I don't think anybody can argue that those teams are going to miss the play-in. Nobody would be surprised to see those 5 teams outside the playoff picture altogether, outside the play-in. But here's the thing about these teams. Outside of, well, I guess the Washington Wizards, the Wizards are just stuck in NBA purgatory. I think too good to make the playoffs, too good to have a top seed or top draft pick, but too bad to really be competing for a championship. I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs. With the East looking as good as it does right now, I would be shocked if the Wizards even made the play-in. The East is just too deep. The Wizards, it's inevitable that they're going to blow it up. Bradley Beal, he got a no-trade clause in his extension this offseason, but he's out at some point next season. Probably next offseason, he's going to be gone. I don't know where he's going to go. It doesn't matter. This year, man, with how good the East is, the Wizards, 11 seed max. I don't see them surpassing that. Outside of the Wizards, you got the Pistons, a bright future, but I don't think they're there yet. Not this year. The Hornets have nothing going for them except LaMelo Ball. The Magic, who's the guy in Orlando? Is it going to be Paolo Banchero? We'll see this year. But with Orlando, I'm excited about Orlando. I've got a lot of talented young players. If you're Orlando, you're in a great position this year because you're not going to compete for a championship. You're not going to be one of those top teams in the NBA. But you've got a handful of guys, Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony in the backcourt. You've got Wendell Carter. You've got Bo Bamba. You've got big guys. You've got Jonathan Isaac. Paolo Banchero hopefully is going to be your guy moving forward. But you've got people, and you've got time. You've got a whole year to experiment with rosters. You've got a whole year to see who's going to fit with Paolo. Who's going to step up? What is the identity of this team going to be moving forward? So if I'm Orlando, I'm optimistic about the future. But in the meantime, as I'm figuring out what my team is going to look like, who cares if you're bad? If you can go get Victor Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson or Nick Smith, one of these top prospects in the draft this year, put him next to Paolo and whoever you decide to keep, great. And those guys on your roster that you've got under contract, maybe Jalen Suggs doesn't end up being a good fit on this team. He's got value somewhere. Trade him. Same with Markelle Fultz. Same with Mo Bamba. These guys, they're either going to grow and develop with your team and they're going to help you be competitive 2, 3, 4 years down the road, or they're going to be valuable assets to trade right now or in the next year, 2 years. So the Magic, I don't know. They're going to be a terrible team this year, but they've got a really, really good, bright future. I'd be excited if I was an Orlando fan. And the Indiana Pacers, I don't think anybody would be surprised if they had the worst record in the NBA this year. I think as far as the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes go, it's going to be the Indiana Pacers, San Antonio Spurs, and the Utah Jazz, and basically a tank off for that number 1 pick. The lottery is going to favor one of those teams. We'll see, but I think those 3 teams are going to have the worst records in the NBA this year, and I think Indiana is going to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference. But those are the teams that really have no shot at competing. They're going to miss the play-in, if you ask me. But moving forward, transitioning into those play-in teams, the 10 seed, I got the New York Knicks. 9, 8, and 7 seeds, I think we got the Chicago Bulls at 9, Toronto Raptors at 8, and the Atlanta Hawks at 7. And these are all good teams. In the past, in the Eastern Conference, they would have been all 4 of these teams could have been playoff teams. But here's the thing. With the Eastern Conference as deep and as competitive as it is right now, any teams that make the play-in, it's going to be surprising that they didn't make the playoffs. You look at the Toronto Raptors, which I think are in a bit of a unique situation, but you look at the Toronto Raptors, wow, a team that good is in the play-in? You could say the same thing about the Bulls, about the Hawks. They just made a big trade for DeJounte Murray. The New York Knicks, I think, are kind of in that NBA purgatory area where they're good, but not that good. But they're not that bad. They just got Jalen Brunson, who's a great player, but he's not a superstar. I don't know how that's going to work. They didn't improve that much. When you look at the rest of the East, the teams in front of them that got better, and that's the common theme in these play-in teams. The Bulls, how did they get better? Patrick Williams is going to come back and be healthy for a year, hopefully. If you're a Bulls fan, that's your main hope. Lonzo Ball is going to be out for a long time. Nikola Vucevic is getting older. DeMar DeRozan is getting older. Are you really going to be as good as you were last year as a surprise playoff contender? I don't think so. Not with the Hawks getting better. Not with the Cavs getting better. The Sixers got significantly better. The Celtics, who were in the finals last year, got better. I think the Bulls are in the play-in. And the Raptors are in a very, very unique situation in the NBA because they're a good team. But Masai Ujiri, he's running that franchise. He's a smart guy. That's a good franchise. If they look at their roster and they look at the NBA and they look at the Eastern Conference, and if they're honest with themselves, do they think they're going to be a top seed in the East? Do they think that they can compete for a championship this year with the roster that they have right now? They've got good young talent. Giannonobi is relatively young. Pascal Siakam, relatively young. Scotty Barnes, obviously the Rookie of the Year last year. Gary Trent Jr. is young and under contract. Same with Fred VanVleet. But is the team as that's currently constructed able to compete for a championship? I don't think so. And I don't think Masai Ujiri, if he's honest, I don't think he thinks so either. And with the rumblings about OG being unhappy, Pascal being unhappy with the role that he's got in Toronto, it wouldn't surprise me if the Raptors are a pretty good team this year. But they look around and they go, okay, we're not going to win a championship this year. Why not capitalize on the value of OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, maybe some of these role players that they've got, trade those guys for future assets, and settle for a play-in spot. And think, hey, 2 years down the road, we could be a contender with Scottie and whatever else they've got next to Scottie, whatever assets they get this year. It wouldn't surprise me if we see the Toronto Raptors go into a soft rebuild this year. But I think they're good enough to still make the play-in tournament. And the Hawks, I don't know. DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, that's going to be an interesting fit. DeAndre Hunter is, wow, when he's been healthy this last year, talk about a perfect 3-and-D type of basketball player. He is the type of small forward that anybody's going to want on their roster. He plays defense. He's a perimeter player, decent shooter. He's got good size, good length. He's athletic enough. Wow. I mean, the Hawks, they could surprise me and be better than a 7 seed, but there's just something about this team. I'm not sold on the fit in that backcourt with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I have a hard time putting them above any of the 6 teams that are in front of them on my predictions. The Hawks are one of those teams where I'm predicting my seeding for the Eastern Conference, and you go 1 through 6, and the Hawks just aren't there yet. And you get to 7, and you're like, wow, okay, the Atlanta Hawks. Are they really the 7 seed? But I think they could surprise me. I could be wrong. I'm just a guy on the internet, but I don't know. I have a hard time believing that they'll have a better record than any of these following 6 teams. And those 6 teams are as follows. Number 6, the Miami Heat. 5, the Brooklyn Nets. Number 4, the Cleveland Cavaliers. The 3 seed, the Philadelphia 76ers. The 2nd seed, the Milwaukee Bucks. And the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics. I expect the Boston Celtics to win 60-plus games this year. This is a team that was in the finals. This is a team that they started the year last year very, very poorly and ended the year after January. This is a team that was on a 65-win pace. They're going to carry that momentum forward. And what we've seen in NBA history is you have a team like the Boston Celtics, a young team, a scrappy team, pride themselves on their defense, but are offensively talented. 1 through 5, they're all able to contribute offensively. They're in the finals. They get gassed out in the finals by the Golden State Warriors. They're going to come into this season hungrier than ever. Desperate to compete, desperate to win. And this is a finals team that got better. They added Malcolm Brogdon to their roster without giving up any significant rotational pieces. I expect the Boston Celtics to win 60-plus games this year and be the number 1 seed in the East. The Milwaukee Bucks, with the number 2 seed, Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player alive right now on the planet Earth. He's unstoppable. He is dominant. He's amazing. He's incredible to watch. He's an incredible competitor. But Chris Middleton, he's got injury concerns. Drew Holiday is getting older. I think he'll age fairly well. And it's a relatively deep team. Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, Serge Ibaka hopefully can contribute. These guys, Giannis is good enough to carry that team to the 2 seed and maybe to carry that team to another finals this year. We'll see, if healthy. The number 3 seed with the Philadelphia 76ers, the Sixers could be the 3 seed. They could be in the play-in this year. It really comes down to, I think, what James Harden is able to do for this team. Is he going to be an all-star type of talent? Or is he going to continue to digress, the way that we've seen flashes of a lesser James Harden in Brooklyn and in Philadelphia last year. But at the same time, last year in Philadelphia and in Brooklyn, there were games where James Harden looked like an MVP type of talent. So if he can keep that up on a consistent basis and he can carry that through into the playoffs, but forget the playoffs. If he can consistently be that guy in the regular season next to Joel Embiid, who's going to be fighting for an MVP this year, they could be a 3 seed. If not, they could fall to 6, 7, 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Cavs, with Donovan Mitchell, I think are going to be an incredibly fun team to watch. I'm a Cavs fan. Let's be real. But I'm trying to be as objective as I can. I'm trying to put the bias aside. I think the Cavs could be a 4 seed. They could be a 3 seed. I think that the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics are the only teams in the East that you could definitively say are better than the Cavs this year. I think the Sixers have a chance to end the season with a better regular season record than the Cavs. But I think the Bucks and the Celtics are definitely a better team this year than the Cavs. But I think that trade that they made to go get Donovan Mitchell, who's under contract for 3 more years. You've got Evan Mobley on his rookie contract. You've got Jared Allen for 4 more years. You've got Darius Garland under contract. You just signed him to an extension. That combination of 4 players is going to be enough to carry this team to the playoffs for the next 4 years plus. I think the trade for Donovan Mitchell was an investment. This is going to be a year of figuring out how to gel together, how to play together, how to maximize each other's strengths, how to make up for each other's weaknesses. The Cavs are going to be an amazing team to watch. They're going to be a tough out in the playoffs. But this year, I don't know. I think they're a second-round team at best. I think they're a 4 seed. And the Nets, there's just too many question marks around the Brooklyn Nets. They could be the number 1 seed. They could win a championship this year. Or they could miss the playoffs altogether. Who knows? But if I had to guess right now, I would wager that they don't get swept in the first round of the playoffs again. I would wager that they have a slow regular season, but they're above the play-in tournament. They make the playoffs, and they are a good enough team to get to the conference finals, and they lose to either Milwaukee or Boston in the conference finals. That's my prediction. And number 6, the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, simply put, they didn't get better this year. They watched the teams around them in the standings, the teams in the East, get better. Brooklyn hopefully has a full season to play together. Philadelphia got better. The Cavs got better. The Hawks got better. And the Heat, what did they do? Their main offseason move was letting PJ Tucker walk for nothing. I think they're a good enough team to be the 6th seed. But I don't think they're contenders this year. As much as it hurts me to say that, I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan. I don't see them being a major contender this year. I think they lose in the first round of the playoffs. But Kyle Lowry, he's getting older. Jimmy Butler's getting older. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero are not good enough to really carry that team. I think they're a 6 seed at best. Well, let me run through them again one more time. Starting at the 15 seed, Indiana Pacers. 14 seed, Orlando Magic. Charlotte Hornets. Detroit Pistons. Washington Wizards. New York Knicks. Chicago Bulls. Toronto Raptors. Atlanta Hawks. Miami Heat. Brooklyn Nets. Cleveland Cavaliers. Philadelphia 76ers. Milwaukee Bucks. Boston Celtics. That's my Eastern Conference standing predictions. Let me know what you think. If you agree, if you disagree, comment down below. Let me know what you think. I can't wait to engage with you in the comments. Subscribe if you want to know more about my thoughts about the NBA. I want this channel to be a platform to talk about basketball. So please subscribe, like this video, stay tuned. I'm going to do a similar video for the Western Conference, and I plan on going through every team in the NBA, all 30 teams, 30 teams in 30 days. That's a series that's coming up, leading into the regular season. So subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.